So in this video, I want to talk about some real shit. I'm just going to go off the cuff about balancing my marriage with my passion and my profession within the film industry. Now, being married and working in the film industry comes with a certain set of challenges. Sometimes you're out on shoots for long periods of time and all you get to do is FaceTime. Sometimes you're working really hard, you're working really long hours, you don't have even time to communicate. Sometimes the energy that is required of you in the film industry to work these long hours, to work these long days, to do these long shoots spills over. My biggest challenge in pursuing this passion of being a filmmaker, the biggest struggle that I have in this business in general is being away from my wife and being away from my family and being away from my dog and being away from my life. When I'm out staying with my friends, sleeping on couches, driving around crazy ass LA, trying to navigate through the traffic, trying to keep my cool in this big place, it gets very challenging. It gets very difficult sometimes. It's typically after like day 3 that I'm really feeling it. There's a couple of ways that I deal with this. I make it a point to communicate as much as humanly possible. So it's at least a FaceTime, like a 30-minute, 45-minute, hour-long, if I can manage it, FaceTime with my wife. Communicating, talking about how I feel about the project that I'm working on, asking her how her day's going, actually listening, communicating, keeping that connection. Because if I'm not communicating regularly, it starts to weigh on me, If I go a day or two without FaceTiming or being able to talk to her, it starts to have a negative effect. Another way that we deal with this is we set up boundaries. There's only a certain amount of time that I could be away from my wife and that it actually makes any sense. Whether I got to come out of pocket to fly her out to be with me for a couple of days, boundaries need to be put in place on how much time I spend away from her. Sometimes you got to say no to shit. There was a time that I took a job during my wife's birthday. It had a negative effect on how I performed on this job. I did very average. I had a friend bring me onto this job, and at the end, when we were all wrapped up, he said, "I've come to expect excellence from you. And on this job, you gave me a mediocre effort." Me missing my wife's birthday had a subconscious psychological effect on my job performance. So you got to set boundaries on what you will and won't do. And you got to stick to your word. You got to stick to those boundaries, which brings me to making time. You got to be able to make time for your significant other. You got to be able to make time for your wife or your husband. And this time needs to be unimpeded by your phone and distractions. You got to be present. You got to be there. You got to make that connection. You got to maintain that connection. You got to keep that connection strong. You can't bring the stress of work home with you and take that out on your significant other. You can't let your lack of energy be an excuse to letting the things that mean the most to you fall apart in your life. My number one, my why, is my wife, my family. And it's the most important thing to me. And because of that, I do everything in my ability to keep that balance between nurturing that relationship and pursuing my passion. Because my ambition and my pursuit of a passion and my fulfillment in life is very, very important. But my family and my relationships and my relationship with my wife is slightly more important, because it doesn't matter how much I succeed in the film industry. It doesn't matter what I accomplish in life in general. If I can't accomplish it with the people that mean the most and the person that has supported me the most throughout this entire journey, then it's not really worth anything to me. So there's just a couple ways that I balance pursuing my passion, working in the film industry, and my marriage and my relationships. I really appreciate you watching. I really appreciate you listening. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.